So when you're having a scene where you gotta pet Wilfred, or you gotta, because you see him as a dog.
Yes.
Are those scenes difficult for you because you're looking right at Jason's face, but yet you have to scratch him behind the ears like he's a dog?
Definitely. I mean, Jason's like one of my really good friends, and so sometimes it can just be so silly to look at your good friend and like treating him like that. But so there's that, and then sometimes the thing is if he was a real dog, I would pet him somewhat differently, and that's always hard when I'm like, oh God, like I hope people really can like stretch their imaginations and know the reason I'm petting him or at this angle is because he's a person in a suit, and I have to like keep that in mind. I have to keep like camera angles and like so there's also that aspect, and then just worrying about like, am I gonna hit his mic, or I can't move the suit when I pet him. So like there's so much technical stuff that goes into such a simple action. So I think sometimes those things tend to bog me down more than the fact that it's Jason.
How's it looking at this season and seeing now this investigation of what Wilfred is for Ryan, the story, the triangle with Jenna is now become kind of the B story in a sense. How has that changed your approach this season, or like are you now like more anticipated, like when you do get some interaction with both Ryan and Wilfred?
Well, I think in terms of my approach, one of the things that has greatly changed for Jenna this season is just that she's more of a person as opposed to just being like sweet and bright and bubbly, and so I get to explore that side. I mean, she's definitely flawed. She's not perfect. It's like one person asked me about when she calls him her dog sitter. She's not trying to be mean. She's not. Their friendship isn't. It's not that their friendship sits on the rocks. It's just that Jenna is not. She's not perfect. She's just a person trying to help out a friend and doesn't necessarily know the right things to say or the best way to do it. She just knows he needs money and she's trying to help because she cares about him. And I do. So anyways, I'm really enjoying getting to understand and explore that side of her. And yes, obviously I want to work more, but that's always, but I do know like what I like. I'd rather, I guess, work less on stuff that's like really, really meaty and fun like that than, as opposed to just being like, hey, for a second. Like I do like that when I am working, it's deeper and darker stuff, and there's more to it. So as an actor, it's fun to actually get to work on that stuff.
Well, and David said too that we're looking at more of what's going on with Wilfred as opposed to just looking at what's going on with Ryan. Do we see later in the season more of what's going on between Wilfred and Jenna?
You definitely, later in the season, Jenna's storyline, like things really start to change for her, and you really see a lot more of her. Like I know it's been like a little light in the beginning, but like as the season develops, you see a lot more, and you really start to understand her. And I think what's so great about that is that's really going to set up some stuff for her in the future, and I'm really excited to get to deal with that as an actor.
So the comedic timing in Wilfred is just phenomenal. It's incredible. Do you feel that there's a formula for good comedic TV?
I think that people are either funny or they're not, and I think it's definitely something that's like innate in people. I think that comes from loving comedy and watching comedy and understanding comedy, and I have friends that are like, help me on this audition for my comedy show, and I'm like, well, do you watch sitcoms? And they're like, no, and I'm like, well, then you're not gonna, you need to understand it. We have Randall Einhorn, who is just a genius directing our show. I mean, he understands comedy like I think no one else, and I think he's one of the top comedic people in our industry right now. You also have Elijah and Jason, who are just very, very funny, and Jason to me is a comedic genius, one of the funniest people I know personally and artistically. Some of the stuff he does in the show is amazing. So, and then our writers, they get it. They get the funny, and to say, is there a formula? I think comedy is always evolving. It's a reaction of what's happening in society. And there's comedic trends that are just kind of trends, and you can see it in the way you watch like different shows. Like there's sitcoms, but then there's also shows like Happy Endings. There's Parks and Rec. There's The Office. Like there's different styles to comedy. But and then I was just watching I Love Lucy the other day, which is one of my favorite comedies, and you see like even that is still funny. Like real funny is always funny, but one of the things I think that Wilfred does so well is it balances the silly humor, but also the intellectual humor, and then it also finds a way to make most stuff real. And to me, that's what I find most funny too.
Absolutely.
This is a really long answer. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm sure that the chemistry between the cast has a big part of that too. Because when you get a cast that can gel together, like you guys do, obviously has a big effect on everything.
I think so. And when you love each other, and then when you trust each other, I think that's important. Because again, like everyone there is so nice, and you hear about people on other shows where there's fighting and drama, and I'm like, oh my god, we are so blessed. Like it's not like that. And when you can actually tease each other or be silly, or you're not afraid to take risks. I mean, Jason will do stuff with Wilfred that is so unique, and even this season he's always trying something different. And if you feel comfortable enough to make those risks and to try something, I think that's when some of the true comedy can develop, and you can surprise yourself.
Has there ever been subject matter on the show that you
Oh yeah. I mean, there's definitely jokes where I'm like, are they going to get this on the air? I have been, very surprised. And then there's certain things where I'm like, oh, is that kind of offensive? And then there's even things that there's definitely been that time. But I have a very dark sense of humor, and I think that in order to get through things, you kind of have to be able to laugh about them, and sometimes humor actually helps you to understand things even better. So I think
One of the things I think is really unique about Jenna is that there's so much question between Wilfred and Ryan, what's real, what's not, but yet your interactions with Ryan are very real. Can you talk about maybe going to those spaces, especially those tender moments where you're that emotional shoulder for him, and that you are physically, we know we can trust that moment between you two.
It's been really fun this season getting to work with Elijah. We've really, like I told him one day, I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. Like we've been able to do a lot of one-on-one stuff, and I do love, he's such an easy person to talk to, and so when we're acting and doing these truthful moments, it feels real, and it just feels so easy. I'm sorry, to answer your question, I got distracted when Christy walked up. Was there anything?
Well, no, it's just, I know that it's something that's very, very powerful, I think, between those two characters, because they are friends, we can trust that interaction, and that it's not some kind of ruse or some kind of trick. And
that is true, yeah. Because with Wilfred, you never really know people are always like, well, what is Wilfred? Is he a guardian angel? Is he a devil? Like, what does he really want? What are his intentions? Like, can Ryan trust him? And you don't know. With Ryan and Jenna, you know that they really do care for each other. But even with Ryan, sometimes his actions are done because he likes her, and so maybe that's not always the most honest thing, but at least it's real. They do really care about each other, and I think it is nice to have that balance on the show. That is another thing that the show does really nicely, is balance, the real with the unreal, the good relationships with the bad, and all that. So.